Thanks for tuning in to the Rutgers Football Report on the Our Lads Football Network. As you can see, Richie Schnyderite has made his return just in time as Rutgers takes on Maryland for the entire season on the line for both teams needing a win for bowl eligibility. How's it going, Richie?
That's going good. I actually just got back from Happy Valley yesterday, so excited to talk some Rutgers football. I know it wasn't pretty, but
yeah, we are. We're not. There's nothing to talk about there. So it is what it is. They're overmatched, and I don't think you could take anything else into that. The one thing I do want to ask you about is the whole Wimsatt, how they're handling his red shirt, though, or potential red shirt, because I don't know. I guess I can see both sides. I mean, I'm guessing that they're saying that the reason like they threw him into the Indiana game when they're blowing him out is just for experience. So, okay, does that mean that they just want to make sure that they get him in for as many games as they can in case they don't go to a bowl? But then what if they do go to a bowl? You can't not play him. So it's just a very weird situation. I know they know what they're doing, but I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, so we talked to Greg yesterday, and he kind of just mentioned, he's like, we have a plan for Wimsatt. We're not sure. He doesn't want to reveal his hand, obviously, because then can't give any info to the enemy before the game, at least. I don't honestly know what they're trying to do either. I would say if my best guess is that they want to redshirt him. That's the case. That's what they want to do. That was always the plan, it seems like, from the get-go. Now, against Maryland, do you really need to play him against Maryland? Probably not.
Yeah, but we didn't need to play him against Indiana when it was a blowout.
I'm okay with playing him against Indiana. I like that idea of a blowout and playing him. I don't like playing him against Penn State when you're getting blown out, and it's like, I guess they put him in for like a weird play in the middle of like the game, and it was like,
well, it was early. It was still early. They were in the game.
Yeah, per Schiano, they have like a specific package for him, and they only use it in certain situations and scenarios. But I don't understand that one. I think you just you put him in the game late. He's not going to start this year, so I would just get him little reps here and there. Like, I mean, it's hard to say that now because it's the final game of the season, but yeah, I would have got him early, like little reps against like blowouts, like Indiana. All right, go run a series. Let's see what you could do against this team when you're already up and nothing's like at stake. But then they put him in against Penn State, and then they put him in against who was the other one that they were getting? Was it Wisconsin or was it Illinois? I forget what it was. But very
Illinois.
Like,
Illinois was the big play. That was the big one. Yeah,
the one big play. Yeah, that was kind of cool to see. But at the same time, like, did you really need to put in the true freshman who didn't get training camp, didn't get this? And it's like, I don't know about that one, but. That's kind of our job, I guess, at the end of the day, is to question things like this. And I'm going to be honest, I'm questioning this one a lot. I do think if you're up big on Maryland or you're down big, it's kind of just like, all right, go out there, go.
The only thing I could guess is they don't care about whether or not he loses a year of eligibility, because they might be thinking of it as if he loses a year of eligibility the way we've played it, that means we're going to go to a bowl. And that means he's going to get 12 extra practices for the kid. And then I would assume he would have to play I would guess he's going to play a quarter if there's a bowl game. You'd have to play him then. Well, you can't just play him for like a series in the bowl game too. That would make no sense.
I think regardless whether they make a bowl or not, they're keeping that red shirt on him. They don't care at that point. He's not going to be a difference maker in a bowl game at that.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with just experience.
Well, you want him to get experience, but you also don't want him to do what he did this past weekend and throw a pick. Well, arguably could have been 2 picks.
Sure.
If you watch the one play, it was kind of, if it wasn't for Bo Melton, there was 100% 2 picks. Well, but yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird scenario. I don't think you play him. I think you redshirt him. I think that's the case. That's always been the case.
I would too. And I would just not have played him in one of these other games, whether it was the Penn State game or the Indiana game.
The Penn State one, yeah, I agree with. They should not have played him at all, in my opinion. That's a top-tier defense. I know people don't like – Rutgers fans don't want to hear it. That is arguably the best defense in the Big Ten. Maybe Wisconsin's right there.
Absolutely.
would not have played him against them at all. But they did. So now it's. I would play him against Maryland. I don't think I'd touch him in the bowl game. I think you keep that red shirt as long as possible, and you don't. And God forbid he does start to look worse and worse, and or even just bad in general. It's going to hurt recruiting. Like at the end of the day, that's going to be their big selling pitch this offseason, the 2023s, and the guys that haven't signed yet in 2022. You want to keep these guys committed, keep them signed. It's tough to do that and sell like, hey, this is our future superstar quarterback when he's throwing picks.
I don't think look, they're not playing another Penn State defense, so I'm not worried about that.
Maryland's defense is very, very bad, but
yeah. So I'm not, if he throws three potential picks against Maryland, then yeah, we have some.
But then it looks bad on 2023. You're like, you're going to sell this as your future 4-year quarterback, 4-year quarterback, and this is the guy you want me to go play for?
Well,
that's.
Well, then he doesn't play as early as you thought, and Vedral winds up starting again.
No, you don't want that again. The guy hasn't thrown for over 100 yards.
I'm just,
I mean,
you know,
that's you can't do that.
Well, look, we both agree that we wouldn't have burnt his red shirt, which is right now a possibility, by not playing him against Penn State or Illinois or Indiana. Excuse me.
Yeah, Indiana.
They have already done that. So since they've done what we wouldn't have done, my point is we both agree that they shouldn't do it. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
What they're going to do is what I believe I just said, is if they play him against Maryland, they will play him in the bowl. There is no doubt in my mind. None.
Got to get to the bowl first.
They got to get to the bowl first. Let's hope that's the case. And that's another good thing to think about is that, hey, that's a good, if that's even something we disagree with, it's still a good thing because they're going bowling. They get all those practices. And so, yeah, I hope we're talking about that in the coming weeks about, he burned it and now he's going to potentially play or not. Well, I hope we have that conversation to debate over the next several weeks.
I hope we do too. I'm not, so we'll get to that, but I'm not confident in that one.
Before we move on to Maryland, has there been any other significant recruiting news over the past few weeks or since the last time I spoke to you? Anything at all pro or con, or is it still pretty much the same thing that we've talked about over the past couple of months?
Since we've last talked, I want to say a couple weeks ago, Rutgers flipped a Syracuse commit and one of the better defensive linemen in Kier Price out of DePaul Catholic. So that was a pretty big win. It also basically tells Syracuse they're still second tier when it comes to New Jersey guys because the kid literally flipped like that.
Perfect.
And they've kind of been second tier in New Jersey for quite some time now, it seems like.
Well, they're in New York school, so that's good.
Yeah, once Schiano came back, it was just kind of like Syracuse. You can't have the pick of the litter anymore. Like this is Rutgers territory. Mm-hmm. So move along, go somewhere else. Other than that, recruiting wise, has been very, very quiet. Trying to think off the top of my head.
They had one guy that decommitted, right?
Who decommitted?
I don't know. Somebody decommitted.
They had Bermudez decommit a long time ago, but
maybe I'm thinking about the basketball team.
Igbinosin decommitted.
Yes, that's
what that one's a little tough. He's still hearing a lot from Rutgers. I do think he actually ends up at Rutgers in the end.
Okay.
His brother's here, the Union High School, the two Rutgers connections there. I don't know the last time Union actually sent the kid anywhere else. It's probably been every bit of 15 years or so. So,
as far as the young kids, things have really started to look even better. And this is the great time of year. It's what I love about college football, is that at this time of year you see all these kids that haven't played for most of the season, and then boom, where did that come from? Where'd that kid come from? And because, hey, they've been practicing, they're just not ready. They're not ready, and then now they're ready, and then they go out there, and we've seen that with Rutgers as well. Let's talk about a couple of those guys, because who give me a few guys that were non-existent, didn't have a lot of playing time or no playing time at all before the season began, that now in the last month all of a sudden look like future impact players.
I think you got to start with the offensive line. Gus Zelinskis, he's the starting center at this point now. He's so good that they bumped Crimmon over to guard, where they've had struggles over the past all season long, I guess you could call it. So he's been really, really good. He's been a little shocking. He's out of I don't know actually the size of the school, but he's out of this small town over in Colorado. It's called Cherry Creek High School. and no one really knew anything there was about him. You watch his tape, it's like, all right, yeah, you're dominating, but you're playing against kids half your size. It's hard. It's always hard to determine how good those kids can be, especially when they're playing against such a lower level of competition. But he's been pretty well. He's been doing really well. He's looked good in practice, and then all of a sudden he started this past weekend. We've seen him get a couple snaps here and there throughout the season, and he kind of replaced Brian Felter completely on the depth chart, it seems like.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden this week starter, and it's like, all right, well, this is probably your future. The next 3 years, it's probably your starting center,
And
unless something crazy happens, of course. But
and then of course Pierce is still part of the future at tackle.
Yep. Pierce has 3 more years after this.
Okay. And is there any? Is those like the two main young future linemen?
Yeah, they're probably the mainstays there. Troy Rainey, we saw play a couple games at right guard so far this season. He's had his ups and downs. He's taken his lumps. Converted defensive tackle, so he's still learning the position and stuff like that. He'll continue to develop. He's still a freshman this year. Left
How about
guard.
that other converted guy?
What'd you say?
Burke, is it?
Ireland. Well, it was Ireland Burke. He changed his last name. Something, I forget what the exact story was. Something with how his stepdad came into his family and changed it in honor of him. I forget the exact background of that one, but
Okay.
yeah. So he another converted defensive tackle, and he's been honestly he was pretty buried at defensive tackle, and it kind of makes sense why they switched it. But it's been working out phenomenally, and he's actually been one of their better interior guys this season. Okay. I think he has 2 to 3 more years left too. So they due to that extra year of eligibility last year, everyone's going to get like it's crazy how this is working now because I'm looking at guys. I'm like, oh, you're a senior. You're like, no, I'm technically a junior or sophomore. I'm like, what? Like, wow. Like, what the hell just happened?
That's weird. It's good. So,
yeah, it's good and bad because now it's harder to turn over the roster if you're a new coach. So,
what about the defense then, especially up front? Because there's been one player that has really been pretty. What's that?
Hamilton.
Yes. So talk about how surprising that has been, or was that something that even early in camp you might have thought could happen?
They were so thin all season long at defensive tackle, especially behind Turner. So Hamilton coming in, almost splitting reps at this point with Julius Turner, who's also been very good.
Sure.
So not a knock on him by any means, but Hamilton's hand placement is huge. He's very good with his hands because of his wrestling background. He was number 2 heavyweight, I think, in his recruiting class for wrestling. I'm actually intrigued to see how he translates the football to the mat and vice versa. So now you kind of saw the wrestling, the football side. Now I want to see how the football to the wrestling side happens, and I want to see if he'll actually get any a couple matches this year against Big Ten opponents who are best of the best. So, but he's going to be a phenomenal player. I'm intrigued to see how long the wrestling thing lasts because him being this good as a freshman tells me he could be a very, very good defensive tackle. So does the wrestling thing last? There's not really a professional wrestling level. I guess you can consider the UFC for most of them.
What season is it?
For wrestling?
Yeah.
It's like winter.
Oh, so it's the same.
Technically, the minute he's done with football,
he can go over to wrestling.
Right to wrestling. Like wrestling's in their second match of the season this week.
Well, why can't he stay wrestling then? That could happen.
He can, but if you go to
a bowl though.
What'd you say?
If you go to a bowl though,
then he stays with football.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the scholarship goes towards football, so I think that's the main concern. But he's a heck of a wrestler, so it's like it depends what the kid wants. But if you're Schiano, I feel like you kind of got to inch him a little bit. Like, yo, you see your potential here?
Sure. Yeah.
You gotta. If you focus solely on this, you're NFL.
Agreed.
Easily.
Agreed.
Especially with the way they love their linemen. So
yeah, no, that would be great. And even Aaron Lewis had a good game, by the way.
Aaron Lewis looked very well. Another guy who, thanks to that COVID year, they get an extra year, so he's technically still got 3 more years after this.
That's great.
So it's interesting. He's going to get better and better. He needs to pack on some weight, though. He gets pushed around from time to time, and I think that's his biggest downfall. Once he adds more strength and spends a whole nother offseason in his strength and conditioning room with Jay Butler, I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think he's almost penciled in at starter next year at this point. And
then, of course, the linebacker play. Powell, of course, having the big interception a couple of weeks ago. So we also have to wonder about Fadokasi, whether he's going to play this week. That's just who knows. You could just only hope that the reason that they were saving him was for the last game, home game, senior game. Don't push it to get in early against Penn State. that's what you're hoping. So,
I mean, if he's healthy, they would have played him against Penn State. Put it like that. Regardless of what.
Oh yeah, if he was 100% healthy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not confident in him coming back. I think that might be it for Fatukasi and Rutgers. He'll have a nice NFL career. I really do think he'll be a very good linebacker in the league. One of the hardest hitters on the team, if not the hardest hitter. Other than him, though, Powell has stepped up phenomenally. He's that new school hybrid type linebacker, tall, lengthy, little skinny, can little on the skinny side, but can cover just about like any tight end. He can cover receivers at times if you need him to. He's looked very well. He had a really nice pick against Indiana a couple weeks ago. He saw a couple struggles against Penn State, but overall, like his tackling is pretty well. He did his job, and at the end of the day, the defense as a whole just got worn down. And
they did a good job. Yeah,
you can't hate on the defense really that much. Melton, another guy who's going to be here for a couple of years, he kind of got burnt a little bit by Jahan Dotson, and a little bit.
Well, Dotson's going to be maybe a first-round draft pick, so
easily
we're okay about that. That's all right.
It's tough though. You have to look at it as like a negative. That's probably the only negative I'd say.
But that's okay. If he's going to have a negative. He's still a young player, so you're going to get burnt by a potential first-round draft pick. We're okay with that. Yeah.
So you kind of live and you learn type of scenario.
Absolutely.
You build off that. See what happens.
That's right. All right. So, and again, hopefully if they go bowling, we'll definitely have at least one show before the bowl game where we can talk about all these players that maybe will have more of an impact, especially if guys like Fatukasi and maybe some other players decide, if there is a bowl game, of course, that, look, I'm going to skip it, thinking about the NFL or whatever the case may be.
I hate that. That's so stupid. Yeah. That's the worst time of the season because everyone's just like, I'm not going to play into no meaningless bowl. I'm like, that's the cool part of the season. Yeah.
But I think it also shows. I think there are some general managers that will take that into account when they're scouting players.
Of course.
Which ones really, really love the sport so much that that's the most important thing. And so, and that's why we need more. That's why we need 16 teams in the playoffs anyway. So then the more teams, the less chance, because those guys aren't skipping playoffs. That's for sure.
No, 100%.
Bowl games, one thing.
They gotta fix something with that too. That's
in time. In time. All right. So Maryland game. You do not feel confident about this game. I could already tell. You're kind of feeling pretty. Why? Is that because of the quarterback situation at Maryland? It's just too dangerous. Big edge.
It's not even just the quarterback. I mean, they probably have one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, if not the best, in Talia. But their offense is very, very good, and I just can't see Rutgers. As good as Rutgers' defense is, they're going to score points. I can't see the Rutgers offense keeping up. They haven't done much of anything over the past month or so. Maybe you can actually all season long. Maybe
Indiana a little bit.
Even in Indiana. Yeah, but even against Indiana, like it's 97 passing yards, 79 rushing yards, 50.
All right, but don't you agree though that the strategy in a lot of these games by the coaching staff was don't screw it up. We can beat this team if we don't turn the ball over, if we don't make mistakes. How many times did you see 3rd down and 5, 6, 7, and they would run the football? It's like, just punt it, field position. I'd rather do that than it's 3rd and 8, and Vedral throws an interception or he gets sacked and we lose field position. So I don't see that with Maryland because when I look at the schedule, that is by far the weakest defense that they are going to play in the Big Ten this season. So if they're going to have their best offensive game, this is going to be the opportunity. And I could see that happening. But again, without Cruikshank, it's really tough. There's no question. That's a big loss for them.
Yeah, losing Cruikshank hurts. Shameen Jones really hasn't stepped up. No. Bo Melton's been doing everything in his capabilities to try to get this offense going, and they just can't do a single thing. Like, I hate to badmouth him as much as I am, but it's just like when you don't throw for over 100 yards in the past 3 weeks, and you don't run for over like 70 yards in the past 3 weeks, it's like, all right, what the hell? Like, someone's got to get something going.
They have to run for close to 200 yards to beat Maryland.
Yeah, and I don't know who does that because if you watch this past weekend, you had Monangai who's hurt and probably is going to miss the week, I would have to assume.
He's going to be out?
His ankle did not look good on that one play. Aaron Young has been a little bit better, but he had 2-something yards per carry. Pacheco, I don't know.
Why are you looking at this Penn State game? Come on, man. That's
It's the most recent
not
one.
Maryland. That's not going to
Maryland's
happen.
defense isn't as bad as people think.
It's not Penn State. It's not even.
No,
All right. So
no,
which
no,
defense?
I'm not saying
which
that.
defense is Maryland better than in the Big Ten that we played?
Off the top of my head, that Rutgers just played. Hold on, I got to go back to this.
Northwestern statistically.
No, yes, statistically, but I don't know, man. It's tough because Rutgers plays the Big Ten East, and they're all pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my point. Is I don't. Where is Maryland statistically?
Statistically, they're near the bottom. I'll admit that. But their their secondary is pretty good. It's their defensive line that's gonna.
Well, that's why we got to run the football.
But the running game's been awful all year.
But again, now we're playing a defense that is susceptible. So
I don't know. It's such a questionable thing. I'm trying to look it up now. It's actually.
And look, there's no question that once again they got to win a turnover battle.
Michigan State and Northwestern have worse defenses. Put it like that.
Overall, okay.
Yeah, overall. Rushing wise, Northwestern has a worse defense, and Rutgers couldn't exploit that whatsoever.
Yeah, that was the game that was. Every team has one of those games every year. That was the game you throw out. That was a terrible game. Terrible.
But I think that would be a good comparison to Maryland, kind of a little bit, just because they do have a pretty decent offense, Northwestern.
So how many points is Rutgers going to score?
17.
Okay.
Maybe.
But if they score 17, they're going to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. They score 21, they're going to lose.
I agree. I don't think they're going to score 21. I'd be surprised.
Exactly. That's
I think they're going to find a way.
I think Talia
at least 24. At least.
That's a lot. They've done that once since playing Big Ten play.
Let's see here.
Yeah, they've only scored over 20 once in Big Ten play, and that's versus Indiana.
Yeah, the only team Maryland gave up less than 34 points in the conference was Illinois in week 3. So in the last 7 games, they have given up no less than 31.
You have to also factor in it's Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa.
No, yeah. I mean, look,
Minnesota's pretty damn good.
I agree they're a better team. I agree. But the big difference, though, is the quarterback situation. To me.
And
I think if you switch quarterbacks, like on some of these other teams, you switch quarterbacks, and I think Rutgers is the better team.
Yeah.
So
I think Talia is going to be very, very hard to stop, and Rutgers has their issues with mobile quarterbacks as is. Add in the fact that, like I said, Maryland's secondary is pretty damn good. Nick Cross is one of the best safeties in the conference. Gator is one of the better cornerbacks. They have another corner I can't think off the top of my head that's pretty good. Garrett? No, I forget what his name is. But regardless, they have a very good secondary, and their linebacker core is okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's the defensive line for them. And I just don't know if they have the abilities to exploit that.
Well, that's going to be the key, no question. Like I said, they're not going to throw for 250 yards. So it's going to be they have to run for 200 yards or close to it. They've got to once again win the turnover battle.
Control the tempo, and
that helps. Absolutely.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. Just after watching Vedral struggle after week, it's hard to be optimistic.
I get that. But it also, if you think about it, whenever they seem to be behind the wall, and then they play an opponent that's beatable, except for the Northwestern game. Again, that's why that Northwestern game is like that one anomaly. You throw that out, and for the most part, when they've been, I don't like the way this thing is going. This is a team we can beat. They beat them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the edge that Schiano has over these other coaches, which, by the way, he didn't have over Fitzgerald, who's a great coach at Northwestern. And I think he has a major advantage over Loxley. Loxley is a very good recruiter, but Schiano is a much better coach. So we'll see.
It's tough though. Like if you look I'm looking at the offensive numbers now. Maryland's got a top 5 offense, and they're only behind Ohio State, of course, Michigan State, and Nebraska.
You mean in the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten. Yeah, top 5 offense in the Big Ten. Yeah. So it's like they haven't faced they beat Indiana. Indiana's lower ranked offense than Rutgers. Yeah, they beat Illinois. Illinois's got 6 more yards than Rutgers per game.
Sure.
this is a new look offense, and I just don't know if they can control the tempo on Maryland's side. I mean, it's going to be over quickly.
I don't see that. That would really surprise me if Rutgers did not compete with Maryland. I don't care what the situation is. Maryland is just that. Because look, Maryland is, you're talking about a program still that is not used to winning. They don't even, at least Greg Schiano has a winning culture. Maryland does not have a winning culture. Matter of fact, let's keep in mind too that they're 1-6 in their last 7 games. Their only win was 3 points to a team that everybody's beating up, Indiana. And I think this matters. They're 0-7 against the spread in the last 7, meaning that every time Vegas believes they're going to do something, they actually do it worse than what Vegas believes they're going to do. So, look, I'm a little bit surprised maybe that Maryland's only, I think the line started at 1, Maryland. I don't know if it's moved at all.
It's up to 2 now.
It probably could get to 3 by game time. I could see it being Maryland 3 at game time. Yeah. They should be. Look, we'll see. That's why they play the games. It's a better team than Rutgers, but it's a winnable game. And we'll find out whether or not the destiny of Rutgers 2021 season is it a bowl. And it would be, I just want to get there so much, not for the bowl, but I know how much it'll help this program if they can get in all those extra practices.
Yeah, that's the biggest factor right now. If they could pull that off, then the practices are huge. You get the freshmen in, get the young guys, just a couple more, like almost like a training camp type thing, pretty much for part 2, and that'd be huge for them. I just don't know. Like I said, I'm indifferent on this one.
So, what kind of score?
28-17.
Well, that doesn't sound as bad as it, because you would look like you were going to like 35-17.
No. Because I feel like this team kind of runs on morale a little bit, and you see them like once they start losing, it's like downhill completely. Like you saw it last week, and I hate to keep bringing up last week, but you saw it last week. Third quarter, they're only up 7-0. Like they're all right. Maybe Rutgers has this shot. Touchdown, boom. All right, whatever. Okay, they got the ball back. Let's see if they could score. 14-7 would be pretty good. Boom, very next drive, Penn State touchdown. It's like, all right, well, there goes that. That's already 21-0. And then the last one was just.
By the way, what was the score of Maryland's game last week?
That's Michigan.
It's Penn State. I mean, come on. It's 59-18. So I'm sure I'm sure their fan base is saying the same thing. It's like, oh,
that's my thing is their losses are all against ranked teams.
Just like Rutgers. Except for Northwestern. I keep saying that.
That's the one that keeps getting
That's
me.
the one we'd be in a bowl already if it wasn't for that one.
Know. It's that game just makes me think otherwise. And then plus on top of it, they haven't won a home game in 4 years in the Big Ten.
I can't even. That's the thing.
That's I don't understand it. I also don't know how the crowd's going to be just because it's going to be cold. It's going to be Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, that's good, though. It's good it's going to be cold. The cold helps the running game compared to the passing game.
Not when your run game's awful.
Well, yeah, but come on. But Checo and Young, they're not awful.
I refuse to give any type of credit to this run game this year. I will. That is one thing I will be adamant about. They are very bad this year.
Okay.
And it's very little things. Pacheco's almost at 3.5 yards per carry this year.
Yeah, it has been disappointing, no doubt.
And every time each year they try to do these inside runs, instead of running through the line, he tries to bounce to the outside, and he ends up running 10 yards, but he's ended up running 10 yards sideways.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know what's going on there because, look, they've had, but let's keep this in mind, though. They've had 3 200-plus rushing yard days this season, including 230 against Illinois and 218 against Indiana, the two teams that are the closest to Maryland. The worst was the Northwestern game. Actually, the worst was the Syracuse game. But the before that, after that, it was Northwestern. So that's what I'm trying to do is trying to compare those teams to Maryland. And that's why I think, look, if they get 120 on the ground, they're going to lose. So there you go. But if they can get to 200, they can get to 220, I think they're right there. And again, they win the turnover battle. I'd be surprised if they rush for 200 yards and win the turnover battle and don't win.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to force a turnover, and that's going to be a little bit tough, I think.
How's the secondary overall? Besides Trey Avery, who's been a disaster.
I don't know what the heck happened to him. Like that was one of the biggest regressions I've ever seen in college football, I think, since covering like for the past 6 years or 7 years. Something happened there. Max Melton's okay. He's been up and down, obviously. He's a big assignment this weekend, and Raheem Jarrett, tall, lengthy receiver. Their tight end is going to be their X factor type thing. He actually led them in receiving. Okonkwo is his name. I think he led them in receiving 3 of the last 4 or 3 of the last 5, something like that.
Well, their number 1 receiver got hurt, a month ago?
Number 1 and number 2.
Yeah. Oh, number 2 as well. Okay.
Yeah, so the fact that that's the other thing is that Talia has been able to put up games of like 300-plus yards.
He's a good quarterback,
without his number 1 receiver. Yeah. Okonkwo is their number 1 receiver in the past 2 of the last 3 games and 3 of the last 5. So it's like,
so we know
he's a pretty good tight end. If they can cover him, I don't trust Fogg to cover him. I would trust Powell to cover him more.
And Izzian has had a good season.
Yeah.
Avery Young.
Izzian's been up and down.
What about the corner? Abraham has had a good season. The nickelback.
Sean has had a very, very good season. He's a little on the shorter side, but he's been phenomenal. He'll fight tooth and nail for people.
And who was that other guy that I was thinking about? That was it another nickelback or another young DB that's played pretty decently, or at least has made some plays? I don't remember who. Was it Longerbeam?
Longerbeam, yeah. Longerbeam's been pretty good. Okay. He's young, but he makes his freshman mistakes, but he's going to be a very good converted receiver. You kind of see that when he drops all these potential interceptions.
Okay, so you will be live moments following the Maryland game, YouTube. Yep. And again, that is under Rutgers.
And it's just like if you go to our website, rutgers.rivals.com, you can find everything there. We got the forums where you can complain or cheer, whatever you want to do.
During the game, yeah.
During the game, after the game. I know right now it's not too pretty with the basketball team. But
another reason we need this bowl game. A distraction, please.
Something.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, but we're on YouTube. We're on everything. Okay. So we're on all those platforms. It's all under Rutgers Rivals. You can find us pretty easily. Search that, and
that's it.
That's pretty much it.
Awesome. All right, Richie, great job. Again, I hope we talk again at some point in the next couple of weeks, because if there is a bowl game, when would that be potentially?
I actually looked up the projections yesterday. If it's, I'm praying it's not the Detroit one. If it's the Detroit one, it's going to be 2 days after Christmas, and I'm like, I don't want to go out there at all. I'm not trying to spend Christmas in Detroit whatsoever. I'm like, crossing my fingers. If they do get the ball, pinstripe, please. Like, for the love of God.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's like the 16th or something.
Okay.
It's all like middle to late.
So they'll get So it'll be about a 3-week wait for the game.
3 weeks wait. So then you get that little like training camp type thing I was telling you about.
By the way, if teams go bowling, like get like that first bowl game, do they get like extra practices after that?
I think they're allowed to practice immediately, whereas like the later ones have to kind of wait.
Off. Okay.
I forget when the first bowl is actually. I think it's
like the week after, usually, right after the Army-Navy game, right? Or the
17th is the first bowl game.
Yeah, because they have what?
Which actually, potential Rutgers is in one of those. Because the Cure Bowl, actually, like the one in Orlando, was rumored about. There's a projection of Rutgers going there at one point.
Okay.
So we'll see. There's Orlando, there's Phoenix, there's Detroit, there's New York. So I don't know. There's so many different ones that they could go.
That's why I asked. I used to be all over this stuff years ago, and I just gave up. I just. All right, sounds good, Richie. Best of luck. You'll be at the game, and it's going to be what, 20 degrees, 30 degrees?
I guess so. I hope.
Hey, bring on the weather, man. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be there. Bring on the weather.
Hey.
Let's shut down that passing game because they're going to get those balls thrown to them. They're going to get drop passes. Oh, it's too cold. They're going to get hit. That's what Schiano's going to do is we're going to hit them. We're going to make them hurt in this cold weather. Yeah. And then when they get the ball in their hands, you got to hit them even more. And that's the type of game Rutgers is going to have to play. So
that's what you're kind of hoping for if you're Rutgers at this point.
That's right. Well, it is what it is. So, all right. And it's better than what it was just a couple of years ago. So we ain't complaining.
Yeah.
So, all right, Richie, great job as always. We'll check you out in the post game, and we'll talk to you again hopefully real soon.
All right, sounds good, Greg. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.